Movement shooters seem to be making a comeback in recent years. After the subgenre died out with the success of game franchises like Call of Duty and Halo, we have seen a ton of single-player movement games come out such as Dusk, Ultra Kill, RoboQuest, and more. But you may ask, where are the multiplayer movement shooters? Well, those sort of came and went. Because of the introduction of Titanfall 1 and 2, Call of Duty tried to start and incorporate more nuanced movement in their games with wall running and sliding, but that sort of failed. And Titanfall has never really been a super successful mainstream game. You also have games like Quake Champions that are supposed to be the next big installment in storied franchises that seem to just deviate too far from the Quake formula. I mean, they added champions. They tried to make Quake into a damn hero shooter, and it just makes me sick. Then you have Lawbreakers and Hyperscape, games that were non-stop adrenaline rushes from the start, and they failed to gain any substantial player base to the point where Lawbreakers at least was shut down and the developer shuttered its doors permanently. I remember when Hyperscape was doing its initial test and it blew up, and then its success became very quickly short-lived. I'm going to be making some generalizations about both boots on the ground shooters and movement-focused shooters, so just keep that in mind as I explain how these games differ from one another. So why do multiplayer movement shooters seem to fail to gain any serious traction? They seem to release and maybe have a flash in the pan, and then fade out while everyone goes back to more grounded shooters, so just why is this? Honestly, the best answer is sort of simple and also sort of complicated at the same time. First, let's see what these bare-bones grounded first-person shooters offer to the people that play them. The first thing is simplicity. Call of Duty and Battlefield titles are fairly simpler in their basic concept. You move and you shoot. And that's oversimplifying it, but most people who play these sorts of games, that's just sort of what it boils down to. You have to know how to aim, and there aren't a ton of variations in the type of gunfights you'll see. And if the game is sliding, it changes the speed at which reaction is required as well, so that kind of complicates things. Map knowledge also helps you so you know the vantage points and the areas you should control. These limited factors into what makes someone good helps newer players grasp these concepts at a faster pace and can at least be competent in some way, shape, or form. Second, and this sort of goes with point one, is ease of access. I think at this point, almost everyone has played Call of Duty or Halo or some variation of these games, and there's a reason why they are as popular as they are. They try to appeal to everyone by being easy to learn and easy to play. Almost anyone who's played a video game can spend a couple hours learning to play and can pick it up. Now, they might not be very good, or they might not get a ton of kills, or even be the next Scump or Nade shot, but they can at least be competent enough to play. This helps these games stay alive and gather huge player bases because of their relatively low barrier of entry into multiplayer matches. Now I want to talk about movement shooters. Movement shooters can be very complex and nuanced in how they are played. Just like a boots on the ground game, they vary wildly from one another, like how Quake and Titanfall have some similarities because they both require some sort of bunny hopping. But Titanfall adds in wall running and Quake has you shift the direction you look while jumping to increase your speed. And these are not, let's say, normal first-person shooter mechanics. Most players I see starting out in Quake or Titanfall or even Diabolical seem to just kind of run like they're playing a Call of Duty game. It isn't intuitive to start slide hopping or using walls or utilizing your momentum to keep your speed the entire time that you're alive. These are not easy mechanics to get a hold of either. These mechanics also create massive skill gaps between the best players and the worst players. So if you're a really good player on a team in a match of Quake, it's pretty much done and dusted from the beginning. Same thing goes for Titanfall. I cannot tell you how many times I've jumped into a game with an alternator and start slide hopping and shooting pilots, realize that they're playing like traffic cones, and then switch to an SMR or a softball. And it's because new players just don't know. Movement shooters are not readily jump in and play like boots on the ground games. Next, let's go back to that skill gap thing I was talking about earlier. When you have a more complex game with more complex mechanics, you allow for larger disparities in skill between the top and bottom of the player base. The more complex a game is, the larger that skill gap can become. It happens a lot in a game like Splitgate, a game I personally consider a movement shooter due to its portals. Splitgate has a huge skill gap and really high skill ceiling due to how complex and skillful the portaling can be during a game. The best players in Splitgate would absolutely wipe the floor with the majority of the player base, hands down. They likely wouldn't even die more than 2 or 3 times if they're playing in a pub. It really is just crazy to see. But Splitgate remains easily accessible because it is more boots on the ground in its style with familiar gameplay and just one movement mechanic. Although no one really seems to remember when Dr. Disrespect rage quit the game in 2019 after getting destroyed in the Twitch Rivals tournament by pro players, but I digress. All in all, movement shooters are generally harder to get into for the average player because they can be very difficult to learn and become competent in. It means that many of these intricate movement-based first-person shooters die before they ever really get a fair shake. It is understandable considering most gamers have real jobs and real lives and don't have the time, desire, or ability to grind and learn new games. So playing something that is at least partially familiar means that they can have fun with their hour or two after work and not have it spent getting destroyed in Quake or Titanfall. Games like Splitgate have shown that a balance can be struck between movement and boots on the ground, making them more accessible. I would love to see more games try that approach, so long as they don't destroy their identity in doing so, which would be incredibly hard, because you can't really take out like slide hopping from Titanfall. I hope that with the resurgence of all of these single-player movement-based games, we might see a revival in the multiplayer portion of the subgenre. Some fresh movement shooters would be great to see, and I would really enjoy getting into them. I hope you all got something out of this video. If you did, then please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. I appreciate every bit of support the channel gets. I've got a bunch of important links down in the description below, so go check those out. Alright everyone, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.